Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody. Trying to get the tech figured out so I can bring to you today the 7 secrets to health and better healing. This is a workshop that I've been doing for years. It's been a while since I put it out there, but I think the information in this is really foundational, and it brings to you the mindset that I have when taking care of my family and our healthcare needs. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to do the 7 secrets to health and better healing. So see if we can get this to go here. So here we go. Secret number 1. We have to be able to determine the difference between sick care and health care. You see, right now we call our current system, we call it a healthcare system, the medical model, a healthcare system. And in fact, it truly is not a healthcare system. It is a sick care system or a crisis intervention system. So, I mean, just think of it this way, when was the last time that you woke up feeling amazing and go, oh, yeah, I feel amazing. I need to go see my medical doctor and just kind of check in and see if there's anything that they can do to help my body do better than it already is. So, I mean, typically we just only call them when there is some sort of a crisis or intervention on hand. So you don't even wake up in the morning with a headache, for instance, and go, oh gosh, I need to call my medical doctor. No, first you're going to go through and you're going to try to solve the problem yourself. Maybe you think you're dehydrated, so you drink a bunch of water. And if that doesn't work, then maybe you move into some over-the-counter medications like NSAIDs, ibuprofen, aspirin, Tylenol, some of those things. And then if that doesn't work, and then maybe you're going to try to get a little bit more sleep. But if then that doesn't work, now you're going to call your doctor because you want to see why in the heck you've been having this constant headache for days and days and days that you can't get to the bottom of. See, so you don't call them when you're healthy, you call them when you're sick. So sick care and crisis care, they are very important. Okay. In my instance with our family, we've had to take our children to the medical doctor, particularly to orthopedics when they have injuries. We had a broken arm, a broken leg, and some of those other types of mishaps that happen when you're raising boys. So very valuable to have a sick care system. However, if we are only acting inside of the sick care system, there is just no path to health and wellness through that system. It's only crisis intervention. So let's move on to the next to the scary stats, right? So with our healthcare system, we're still in crisis. We're in pretty rough shape as a country overall. When we look at our number 1 killer being cardiovascular disease, which is a very preventable lifestyle disease, taking out nearly or probably a little over 1 million a year now with the stats that we have here. And then when we look at the healthcare system itself, the interventions a lot of times cause more problems than good to begin with. And really, over 100,000 people every year die from taking properly prescribed prescription drugs in proper dosages. And we all know that there's some medical misconduct that takes place with some of these pharmaceutical industries. The most recent one that we've seen is with the oh shoot the painkiller crisis that we had seen. But even back in when I first graduated from Palmer, very early on into chiropractic practice myself in Cedar Rapids, I remember when they pulled Vioxx, which was an over-the-counter medication, or it was prescribed, but it was a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medication in the same class as like Tylenol or Advil and along those lines. But the Vioxx itself, they knew that people were having heart attacks with it, and over 60,000 people died in a very short period of time from taking it, that were documented taking it, that before they even pulled it off the shelves. So, I mean, we've seen that with this. We see it with the morphine products and the pill mills that came out. So even sometimes when we are in crisis, our sick care system, depending on the intervention, it's just basically it's kind of risky. It's just a risky system to get stuck in. Now let's talk about the economics of this all. So if we look at the economics of illness, when I did this workshop way back in the day, probably let's see, 5 to 8 years ago, the stat here where the US spends right now 4.5 trillion a year in that sick care model. When I first started doing this, it was 2 trillion. And I can tell you that when you over double a number that is as high as 2 trillion, it is very excessive. So that's over $13,000 for every citizen of the United States, every man, every woman, every child. So it's a very, very expensive system. So here we go back. Let's go back in time again, back to 2009 when I give this presentation. The US, we were spending $2 trillion on our healthcare, and our overall health rank was 37th globally. And now, according to the Global Health Index, this is a brand new number I just looked at, we're ranked 66th. So not only have we doubled the amount of money that we're spending on our sickness to try to, be more comfortable perhaps, or because we're doing what we think we should be doing to get healthy, but we're just in the wrong model. And because of that, the amount of dollars that we spend seem to be in relation to how sick we are. The more we spend in the system, the sicker we tend to get, it looks like. It used to be about 50% of personal bankruptcies were due to health-related costs, but now we're up to 66% of all bankruptcies are due to medical issues, essentially. So from an economic standpoint, it's devastating for us. Now, Paul Zane Pilsner, he was an economist for a couple of presidents here. He came out with a book early on in the 2000s here, and even 2002. He had said that the sickness business itself is reactive. And even though we're sticking a ton of money into this system, people are going outside of that system to actually become customers of the wellness model, which is going to help you, be stronger, healthier, and more adaptive. And he was noticing back then, very early on, that the seeds of revolution were starting, probably because our communication systems really opened up back then with the internet and social media and things like that, that we could get people better, healthier information so that they could move down a path to make their bodies stronger, healthier, more adaptive, instead of, again, just simply treating sickness. So that's number one. Secret number two is we have to understand the truth about pain. So we put pain in here because we can all have experienced pain, but this can be any type of symptom that the body's giving you. So just think, if it was possible for you to take a pill with zero side effects, and you take this pill and it would be impossible for you to ever feel pain again, would it be something that you would take? I know that some of you folks out there who have been dealing with chronic illness or chronic pain for a while would be like, heck yeah, I'm taking it. Now just imagine you're taking this pill, you have no pain sensation at all. Let's say, you stepped off of a high curb and completely destroyed your ankle. You broke your ankle and you broke your leg in a couple different parts, only you don't feel it. So you just keep on walking, and then you're walking and maybe stumbling because you lose a little bit of coordination, and you maybe step on a rusty nail next, and you don't know. You just keep on trucking along. You see, the idea and the point being is that pain is not the problem. Pain is an indicator that you have an underlying issue, that your body is losing its ability to adapt and maintain health under your current circumstances. So that pain itself, even though it's not very comfortable, like nobody likes to be in pain, it doesn't mean that you're unhealthy. We can experience a lot of pain in a situation where our bodies are healthy, but maybe we just got injured, so our bodies need time to heal. So that's a common misperception about pain. And on the other end of that, another common misperception is that the absence of symptoms or the absence of pain means that you're healthy. And the reality of it is that is also not true. We all have had people in our lives that said they were feeling good. They have no problems, no symptoms. They're healthy as a horse, and then maybe they drop dead of a heart attack, or they go in for that physical and find out that they're loaded with cancer. So there's people around us all the time that are truly sick and don't even know it because it doesn't necessarily give us clues, although that it can give us clues. So that's right there, the truth about pain. Now, the purpose of pain is it really alerts us. Symptoms in general, the body signal alerts us that there's something wrong, that our bodies are not adapting to an issue. So by taking a medication to cover up the pain, to numb the pain out, or to kill the symptom, what you're actually doing is just covering it up, and the problem that got you into the mess to begin with is still present. That is the problem. It's like taking the battery out of the smoke detector when the smoke detector keeps buzzing, and not paying any attention to, maybe the cause of that thing buzzing, which could be a fire in your house, right? So you can see the dangers of ignoring that pain, okay? So if that's the case, then let's talk about secret number 3. Secret number 3, this is at the foundation of all things health, is we have to understand the role of the nervous system. Our nervous system is the master system and controller of the entire body. Everything that we experience, everything that we feel, every function that takes place inside of our body is controlled through the nervous system. We live our lives through the nervous system. When you see your child do something for the first time, or that baby giggle for the first time, you can't help but well up and giggle yourself. The reason is because your nervous system perceived that and then you responded to that. So the nervous system controls everything: your heartbeat, the muscle control, how much digestive enzymes your body's producing, your blood pressure, heck, your mood, your physical performance. Everything is under the control of the nervous system. So if that's the truth, then what the heck, right? So the nervous system, we have to understand there's a couple of facts that really are at the basis of understanding how important this nervous system is. Number 1 is a living body is self-healing and self-regulating. And number 2 is the nervous system is the master system and controller of the entire body. So think about that for a second. The body is meant to heal. We've all seen this happen. We've all gotten a cut or an abrasion on our arm or hand or knee, and it bleeds and it maybe stings for a little bit. And then in a few weeks, it's completely gone and you don't even know it was there. The body's self-healing, self-regulating, right? And the nervous system controls everything. So if that's the truth, which it is pretty well not an issue across the scientific community that those are facts, then that you must come to this one conclusion, and that's simply any interference or any distortion to the signaling of the nervous system then it affects the ability of the nervous system to regulate and heal the body as it should. That is the problem here, folks. We got to make sure that that nervous system at the foundation is functioning properly. So that brings us to secret number 4. Secret number 4, now we're getting into the chiropractic side of things. We have to understand the role of subluxation, what subluxation does. You see, our brains are completely encased in bone. That's how important it is. In fact, the spine is also completely encased in bone, almost like a suit of armor, right? Only they're movable bones that form joints along there to protect the spinal cord. These delicate tissues are so important that our bodies are completely encasing them in bone to protect them. How amazing is that? Now, these nerves, the brain signaling the body and the body signaling the brain, all goes through these little wires that we call neurons throughout the body. And the vast majority of them, all but the cranial nerves, go right through the spinal, right between the spinal bones at the level of the joint and the disc. So when those nerves, when there's misalignment on those bones and then in fixation, then those bones get stuck. Now, because that motion is no longer taking place, then we're no longer firing off our neurology as we're supposed to. Okay, sometimes we can actually have a direct pressure on the nerve, either due to swelling, tight muscle in the joint, or other inflammatory chemicals can irritate those nerves for sure. But vast majority of the distortion that happens in the nervous system happens because things aren't moving, and the little mechanoreceptors, little nerve cells that fire through motion that are in and around that spine, that spinal generator there, they're not firing, right? So it creates this interference. And then if we go back to the last secret, what happens when you interfere with the normal function of the nervous system? Well, what happens is that you interfere with your body's ability to heal and regulate itself properly. So that is the subluxation right there. So when we talk about this, this can be really devastating. This is why when you walk into our office, you can see people that come in. Sure, we got people that come in for your classic, oh, I got a pain here, a pain there, I got headaches here, I got headaches there. But we're also seeing people that are having body signals other places, stomach issues, immune issues, people that see our marketing material and understand the importance of the role of the nervous system and how the subluxation takes place. They are coming in for more wellness. So you can see people across the gamut in here for all sorts of different reasons. But what we really encourage people is to make the choice to be adjusted just for the health of it, because it is absolutely necessary to remove or to reduce vertebral subluxation so that we can restore that normal health and healing to the body. So that's the subluxation. Now, what causes the subluxation is stress. So number 5, the role of stress. We have to understand stress. A lot of times when people hear the word stress, they just think of the mental and emotional types of stress, right? Where you're kind of have it up to here. Maybe you feel like your head's going to pop sometimes. You're going to go off the rails because you're so emotionally stressed out. But that can be absolutely a stressor. It's probably one of the bigger stressors, but the reality of it is that stress comes in 3 dimensions. It's always acting on our bodies, and our bodies are always responding to stress. And that stress comes in really 3 different dimensions. And if you're not adapting to stress, then you're not alive anymore. That's just how it works. So if we break down the 3 dimensions of stress, we have physical, chemical, and psychological or emotional stress. So let's talk about physical stress. When we look at stress, stress can be good, stress can be bad. We call it eustress or distress, right? So when we have positive examples of stress, this would be like, really stretching out, exercising, doing healthy body movements, moving the way that humans are meant to move. When you break down, when you're like lifting and straining physically, you're going to break down muscle, which in the moment can make you a little sore and achy, but as your body heals and adapts, you get stronger, right? That's a positive example of stress. And then there's negative examples of stress. Negative examples of stress would be forces on the body that overcome our ability to deal with them. The most common one, the very first one that most of us ever experienced was stress at birth. Okay. There's a lot of pulling and twisting on the baby's head, especially if there's a C-section. If there's a C-section, that baby comes out head first. And then, not only do we got to deal with the suction of that baby being in mom's belly yet, but we got to overcome gravity as well to pull that baby out. And that right there is one of the biggest stressors and the first ones that we see with most of our people. But also sitting. Sitting is harder on our health than even smoking cigarettes is, especially if you sit for more than 4 hours a day. So we need to be out and exercising and moving. You see, we wouldn't have had to exercise 10,000 years ago, or even 1,000 years ago. We wouldn't have had to exercise because if we didn't exercise, we wouldn't be able to collect enough food to eat, right? But now that we can sit all day, we have to create exercise routines in order to be optimally healthy. We call that vitamin M. You got to get what the body needs there. So the next stress is chemical stress. Positive chemical stress would be giving your body the nutrients that it needs, requires to build and repair healthy tissue. Negative examples would be preservatives, pesticides that are sprayed all over our foods, unhealthy fats, toxic sugar loads, household cleaning supplies. A lot of this stuff is neurotoxic, right? A lot of it it creates immune issues, autoimmune issues, and neurotoxicity. So we want to really try to, reduce the stress load, because when the body becomes overwhelmed with stress, then that's when the subluxation happens. Just imagine if you took like let's just say 1 cup of sugar. I think you get some of them sodas, you get a serving of soda, you got more than an 8-ounce of sugar in there. But you take all the sugar that's in a pop, and let's say you just melted it down and you put it right into your vein. What would happen? It'd probably be a bad thing, right? So just imagine, sometimes these subluxations, I believe, happen when the gut gets irritated, it subluxates, and that, can slow down digestion and cause some things there. So sometimes the subluxation, even though it's a nasty thing to overcome, sometimes it can also be an intelligent thing for your body to do. But those are the negative examples of biochemical stress, and that's how biochemical stress can cause subluxation. And then the last one is psychological stress. So when we look at psychological stress, there's certain things mentally and emotionally that human beings require. And I think that being in loving relationships is one of the big things, with your parents and with your family and with your spouse and with your friends, things around you, doing good things for yourself, really achieving the things in your life that you desire, right? Moving towards some of those visions and goals that you've had for yourself. Those are good psychological stressors. Negative examples of this emotional stress would be, financial issues. Right now, like I said, with even just healthcare expenses, doubling, a lot of the food's gone up 25 to 30% as well, just over the last 4 years. We've got a lot of financial issues in our communities. We have relationship conflicts. We have people that aren't living according to what their subconscious mind wants for themselves, right? We're settling for things that don't make us happy. Those are all examples of negative stressors that can create patterns of tension to develop in the body and create that subluxation that we're trying to avoid. So that's the role of stress. Now let's talk about the chiropractic vision here. So this is the vision that we've raised our family up through. I've got 4 little boys. Out of all 4 of our little boys, the oldest one is 15. We got 15, 13, 11, and 9. And out of the 4 boys, we've had 1 prescription medication, and that was an antibiotic for an issue that we were dealing with that I felt, it was time to put this kid in the sick care system and give him the best that healthcare has to offer to help him overcome his challenges. And then we buttoned down the lifestyle stuff for him on the other end. But out of all of the 4 boys, we've only had 1 that had used medication. We've only had 1 that had to go to a medical doctor for anything other than some sort of an ortho injury or checkup to make sure that we're not dealing with broken bone, fractures, dislocations, stuff like that happens when you're raising a gaggle of boys. So anyway, this is the vision that brought us to be able to live the healthy lives that we're living. And one of them is, the first one here is we identify the subluxation, and we use analysis to figure this out, right? We're looking for misalignment, and we're looking for fixation, and we're looking for nerve disturbance. So one of the big things that we do while we're looking for all that, we collect information on day 1, and then we use that information to make a program of care so that we can lay out a game plan to help people overcome these neural distorted patterns that their bodies developed over time. And then the other thing that we do that we find as a must, and the reason that this video is even out there for anyone to watch right now, is that we find it really important to get out there and educate our communities, because we're not getting this information about true healthcare being absent of, or being that true healthcare having nothing to do with symptomatology and everything to do with making your body healthier, stronger, and more adaptive. So we got to get this information out into the community so that we can, correct the subluxation, but then also have people subluxate less, because we're just bombarded by stress on all 3 of those categories. So one of the major analysis tools that we use in our tool bag is the subluxation station, the Insight subluxation station. This technology has been around for a little bit of while here. It's been certified by the Space Foundation, which means that they've used it on some of their astronaut missions to measure some things. And this tool right here, this Insight tool, we have on the, I don't know if you can see my pointer here, but we're going to go from right to left there with the tools. We got the rolling thermal, then we got the HRV, the heart rate variability, and then the surface EMG. By taking these non-invasive measurements off of our patient, we can see how efficiently things are working in general. That's the subluxation station. It gives you a full-on report. So here's a report that I had back in the day. My core score at the time was an 89, not the highest I've had. I've had some a lot lower. It's an ongoing thing that I do all the time, but it gives you a full-on report so that you can see where the nerve disturbance is showing up. look at the image to your left on the top, we're seeing all the green bars up on the upper right-hand side. That is an indication that there's stress on those nerves up there. So that is what we do with our report of findings, is we'll show you where the stress is, and then we'll talk about the misalignment fixation and some of those other things that we're seeing with our other examination processes that we do. And it gives you this core score report in the end. And based upon that, we can lay out a game plan. So here is a individual. This was an 11-year-old male that had gone through the process. And this little guy, he was having migraines 5 days a week. He was just a bear to deal with, super short temper. He was getting into a lot of trouble at school. He had some anxiety issues. He was constantly having gut issues. He was living with his mom and dad, his dad and his stepmom. He had a bad experience with his mother early on and ended up moving away from her. They had moved like 6 times. So he'd been bouncing from school to school to school, not really able to form good, healthy relationships with friends in his class because he wasn't there long enough. And then, he dealt with some abuse and things like that early on with his mom. Mainly emotional stuff. But when we first came in, you can look all the way to the left, scan all the way to the left. We see all that color on there, and it's right in the middle. So no kidding, he's had some belly aches. He's got so much tension through the middle of his spine. That's where those nerves power up the digestive system. But he was all wound up. When we look down at the bottom here, we got this total energy index. He was almost at 180 on the total energy index. And then after we took him through about 12 visits over the course of a month, actually, this is a couple of months down the line as I'm looking at it, we have 527 all the way to 714. So this is probably 2 months, close to 2 months down the road here, a month and a half down the road. We can see how his total energy now has dropped down to 110. And his pattern score increased, which means his body was starting to gain organization. It really gained organization on the last one, even though it was still just a little bit wound up there. But by the time we got through, 2 to 3 months worth of care for this guy, he wasn't having any issues at school anymore. He wasn't having any belly aches anymore. He wasn't having any headaches anymore. And we weren't treating him for any of that stuff. What we were doing is we were evaluating his spine for vertebral subluxation. We were making adjustments, and then we were measuring progress with our technology along the way so that we could see what we could do to help this little guy be healthier, stronger, and more adaptive to his environment. So that was that. Now, this is a different case study. This wasn't one that I did, but this was one a couple of chiropractors did that show you the idea that, the adjustment, we're not just adjusting the spine, we're adjusting the nervous system, we're adjusting the brain and the way the brain's functioning. So if you look at the image on the left, that was taken with a woman where she was asked to wiggle her ankle in a functional MRI unit. Functional MRI units, they'll light up areas of the brain to show us, what parts of the brain is required to do a certain activity or task. They mainly use functional MRI for research, brain mapping type of stuff. This is how they know like where the emotional centers are for certain things. They'll have you watch something funny, they'll watch you something sad, they'll have you wiggle an ankle, they do this, and then they map out what's going on in the brain. So the one on the left, you can see how the entire brain is just all sparked up, colorful. Do I got a pointer here? No, hopefully you can see my pointer right there. But then when we look at the image on the right, look at how much less color there is, how much less activity there is going on. What happened was that single adjustment that was taken on that woman prior to doing that second MRI, basically it took all the noise out of her system. It created a more neural efficient environment. And when things are working more efficiently, the body can get more done with less work. And I don't know about you guys, but we often hear that people get pretty wiped out after a day's work, or they're tired, really wiped out by the end of the day. And how would you like to be able to either do the same amount of activity and use less energy, or to be able to do twice as much and use the same amount of energy? We can really get things done when things are well adjusted. You can get the energy back on. Okay, so this little healthcare continuum, I want to show you this because most of the time what we're seeing over here to the left of this false wellness zone, this developing disease and premature death as we go down towards zero, when we look at that, this is where our healthcare system intervenes, and that's where our healthcare system stays. If you're experiencing symptoms and you're moving in and you're taking medications, but you're changing nothing else, then you, my friends, are on the path to the left, okay? The medication might make you more comfortable as you're going down the path to the left, but oftentimes there's nothing that can do to make you move to the right, okay? Now, again, I'm not saying that isn't times when medication is necessary, but what I'm saying is if that is your only tool in the box, then there's nothing that you're doing that's going to move you to the right. So where chiropractic lives is over to the right. Okay, a lot of times people will come in with developing disease, developing symptoms, because we're trained that way. We don't go to a doctor, we don't go to a medical doctor, we don't do a chiropractor, we don't go to a massage therapist, most of us, unless we have a symptom or a problem. Now, some people through the educational process, if you look in this first box under good health, you look at we got regular exercise, good nutrition, wellness education. The reason wellness education is so stinking important is because without it, we don't see the value in doing things that make us healthy. So we need this education to keep us going to the right side. And then, of course, you need a properly functioning nervous system to really blast you off to the right. So that's the health continuum that we all live in. And what we're trying to do is get everybody, on from 5 and above. We want to move to the right on that continuum. That's what we want to do. So that brings us to our last secret. Secret number 7 is it's your responsibility. Your health is your responsibility. The moment you put your health in someone else's hands and you give it to them 100% to take care of you, then you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. Okay. We saw this a lot when we were taking insurance from folks. We would find that people would come in and they would get care until their insurance company would stop paying, which would be anywhere between 12 to 20 visits. They would come in and then they'd get a letter on visit 21 saying that, this visit's not medically necessary, right? Because it's on the sick care side, necessary. But what happened then is that people would be like, oh, well, my insurance don't cover it anymore. I'm feeling okay, so I'm out of here, right? So they weren't taking that personal responsibility to correct what was going on. And, if you put it in the hands of an insurance company, for instance, because this still happens where, people are like, oh, I got this and this and this going on, but insurance won't cover it. So I just got to kind of deal with it. Right. If that is your mindset, then think of this. You are trusting your health with someone who is just trying to save money and be profitable. And that is not a good idea. That is not a good idea. We want to partner with people to help them achieve a higher level of health. That's what the chiropractor's job is. That's what our job is. So it's our mission to really partner with you and your family to help you really achieve this high state of health so that you can stay out of the sick care system, because the sick care system is risky and dangerous. Okay. It is, depending on which statistics you read, the healthcare system itself, intervention within the healthcare system itself is it could as high as as low as the third leading cause of death. The third leading cause of death behind heart disease and cancer. So that's the risky system we're trying to keep people out of as much as possible. So that's what we need to do. So let's review this real quick. So in review, secret number 1, sick care is not the same as healthcare. Okay. You have to know the difference if you're going to be healthy. You have to know which lane you're going into if you're trying to get down the road on the health continuum, if you want to go to the right to greater health. Okay. Secret number 2, pain. And I'm going to say symptoms, although they can be unpleasant to experience, it's a necessary response. And it's a survival response that alerts us that something's wrong. Something we need to take a second and we need to evaluate what's going on. Secret number 3 is that the nervous system is the master system and controller of everything that goes on in our body, all of our perceptions, all of our functions. We live our lives through our nervous system. That's number 3. Number 4, vertebral subluxations. They are a sign of disturbance within the nervous system. And it's the primary focus of chiropractors, especially here at Family First. It's our primary focus is to find and reduce and eliminate and correct and balance out vertebral subluxation, because it interferes with the body's ability to heal and regulate itself appropriately. So we want to have your body to have every ability it has to overcome challenges and become stronger and healthier. Then we have secret number 5, that lifestyle stress in these 3 dimensions, physical, chemical, and emotional, are what causes the negative effects to our nervous system, and they cause those vertebral subluxations. Number 6 is the chiropractic vision. And the chiropractic vision is not only to identify and adjust and correct vertebral subluxation, but we want to monitor the nervous system. We were going to use this insights technology that we have so that we can see whether or not you have any stuck patterns of distortion within your nervous system, because as we go through and we correct subluxations, the body is going to get healthier and stronger. So then we want to correct the subluxation, but we also need to educate. So please keep watching our videos, keep taking in our educational material. The people that understand health the most tend to be able to get the best results because they're able to make the best decisions. So that is number 6. So number 7, the key to success in regaining your health is to take responsibility for your health. Know that it's on your shoulders, that your body has within it a built-in doctor that can heal and regulate things that are damaged. There's never been a disease known to man that has not resolved on its own, okay? I'm not saying that it happens all the time, and with some of the really bad diseases, it doesn't always happen, period. But if you're going to give yourself a fighting chance to have the best, longest, healthiest life that you have, then you have to take responsibility. You can't trust the insurance companies to buy you healthy food, for instance, right? Or to give you the proper care along the way. So that's secret number 7. The last thing I want to talk about is, how important it is to us at Family First Chiropractic to make sure that children are getting checked. I said one of the earlier stresses that we have, the biggest stress, in my opinion, or the first stress, I should say, for most of us is through the birth process itself and early on with early drug interventions and vaccines with kids that causes a lot of distorted patterns within the nervous system that we want to check and balance out as soon as possible so that it's easier to raise healthy kids in today's world. And I think that it is absolutely possible for us all to raise healthy children. So I want to thank you all for joining me.